first thing that went wrong was the timestamp. I noticed it because it didn't match anything else on my screen, and in my job, mismatches matter. I work for a county records department in the Midwest. We digitize old emergency communications, 911 calls, radio traffic, dispatcher notes, from the late 1990s through the early 2000s. Most of the material is dull. Accidents, welfare checks, noise complaints that went nowhere. That morning, I was assigned a sealed archive box labeled February 2003, audio only. Inside were cassette tapes in paper sleeves, each one handwritten with a date, time, and short description. Routine. I logged tape 117 into the system and slid it into the playback deck. The sleeve read, February 14, 2003, 2:17 a.m., call dropped. But when the audio software recognized the input, the status field didn't populate correctly. Instead of archived or completed, it read, active. I frowned, refreshed the window, and tried again. Same result. I assumed it was a software hiccup. Our system wasn't built to handle analog transfers anymore. I hit play. For the first few seconds there was nothing. Not static. Not tape hiss. Just silence. Then I heard breathing. Not loud. Not panicked. Measured. The dispatcher's voice came in clearly, professional, and steady. 911, what is your emergency? The breathing continued, close to the microphone. Then a male voice spoke. I think someone is in my house. He sounded young, early 20s, calm in a way that felt forced. The dispatcher asked for his address. When he said it, I paused the tape, because I recognized the street. I live less than 10 minutes from there. I told myself that meant nothing. Counties reuse street names. Numbers repeat. I pressed play. The dispatcher asked if he could see the intruder. No, he said. I can hear them. There was a faint sound under his voice. A dull, rhythmic noise. Not footsteps. Tapping. The dispatcher asked him to lock himself somewhere safe. I already am, he said. Bedroom. Doors locked. The tapping grew louder. The dispatcher asked if he lived alone. Yes, he said. Then quieter, I think so. The dispatcher told him officers were being dispatched and asked him to stay on the line. I don't think they know I'm awake, he said. The tapping stopped. For a moment there was nothing. Then the caller whispered, never mind. They do now. Something scraped softly across wood, like a fingernail dragged along a door frame. The dispatcher raised her voice slightly, urging him to stay calm, to keep talking. There was a sound of fabric shifting. Another breath came through the line. This one wasn't his. Closer. The dispatcher repeated his name. No answer. The tape ended without a disconnect tone. Just silence. I leaned back in my chair and checked the system again. The call was still marked active. I searched the call number. No police report. No incident follow-up. No record of officers arriving. That alone was strange. Even false alarms generated paperwork. I searched the address. There was one entry. Not from 2003. From the previous year. February 14th, 2:19 a.m., noise complaint. Caller reported rhythmic tapping sounds from neighboring residents. Officers responded. No contact made. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. After work, I drove past the address. The house was small. Single story. White siding. Curtains drawn. No lights. No car. As I pulled away, the porch light flicked on for a moment, then went dark. The next morning, tape 117 was gone. Not misplaced. Gone. The digital file was gone too. No deletion log. No system error. Only the blank timestamp entry remained, still marked active. I told my supervisor. She said maybe the tape had been misfiled years ago, that sometimes metadata corrupted during transfers. Don't overthink it, she said. That night, my phone rang at 2:17 a.m. Unknown number. I didn't answer. A voicemail came through. It was silent. But when I held the phone to my ear, I heard something faint. Tapping. The next day, the blank entry in the system had updated. A new timestamp appeared. February 14th, 2:17 a.m. The current year. I requested access to other February 14th records. There were more. Different years. Same time. Same address. Always listed as dropped or incomplete. Always no follow-up. Always unresolved. I stopped sleeping. I started hearing tapping in my apartment. Always at night. Always at 2:17. Last night my phone rang again. I answered this time. No one spoke, but I heard breathing. Measured. Close. Then a voice whispered, "I don't think they know I'm awake." The call didn't disconnect. It's still ongoing. I never planned to stay the night. That's the part people don't believe when I tell this story, but it's true. The cabin wasn't supposed to be more than a stop. A place to warm up, check the map, and wait out the snow before driving back down the mountain. I worked seasonal maintenance for the state parks department. Winter contracts, trail inspections, boundary checks, damage reports. Most of it was solitary work, which suited me fine. I'd been assigned a remote section of forest land that day. No trails open to the public, no campers allowed until spring. The storm rolled in faster than forecasted. By the time I realized how bad it was, visibility had dropped to almost nothing. Snow came down in thick, quiet sheets. My truck started slipping on the access road, and I made the call to pull off rather than risk sliding into the ravine. That's when I saw the cabin. It wasn't marked on my map. No signage. No number. Just a structure set back among the trees, barely visible through the snowfall. Old but intact. Smoke wasn't coming from the chimney, but the door looked solid, and I figured it was a ranger shelter or an emergency station. I parked, grabbed my radio, and went inside. The cabin was warmer than I expected. Not heated, no fire going, but not freezing either. Like someone had been there recently. The air smelled faintly of old wood and something metallic like a cold stove. There were 3 rooms. A main area with a table and bench. A narrow hallway. And 2 small bedrooms. No electricity. No running water. But there were signs of use. Boot prints on the floor. Fresh enough that the snow hadn't fully melted yet. A half-empty bottle of water on the table. A folded blanket on one of the beds. I radioed in my position, explained the situation, and was told to shelter in place until conditions improved. That's when I noticed the door didn't lock. There was a latch, but it didn't catch properly. The wood frame had warped. I tried the windows next. They were intact but old. The glass rattled when the wind picked up. I told myself I was overreacting. This was a cabin in the woods, not a horror movie. People came through these areas all the time without authorization. I set my pack down and waited. Night came early. The snow muted everything. No wind sound. No wildlife. Just a heavy quiet that pressed in on the walls. That's when I heard the footsteps. They weren't loud. Just the sound of snow compressing under weight. Slow. Careful. I stood near the table, radio in hand, listening. The steps stopped outside the cabin. I called out. "State parks. Anyone out there?" No answer. I moved toward the door and looked through the small window. Nothing. No tracks leading away. Only one set leading up to the door. From the wrong direction. They hadn't come from the road. I closed the curtain and stepped back. That's when someone knocked. Not hard. Just enough to be unmistakable. 3 taps. Evenly spaced. I didn't answer. The knocking didn't repeat. Instead, I heard movement along the side of the cabin. Slow footsteps circling, testing the walls. Then another sound. The latch. Someone was touching it. Not trying to force it. Just lifting it. Letting it fall. Like they were checking something. I backed into the hallway, heart pounding, and whispered into the radio. Static answered me. No signal. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Minutes passed. Then I heard the bed creak in the far room. I froze. Because I hadn't been in that room since I arrived. I hadn't touched the bed. The creak came again. Weight shifting. I stepped back into the main room and grabbed the flashlight. The door to the second bedroom was open now. It hadn't been before. I know that for a fact. The light beam shook as I aimed it inside. The room was empty. The blanket on the bed was unfolded. Warm. I stood there longer than I should have. Then the front door opened. Not fully. Just enough to let the cold rush in. Footsteps crossed the floor. What? Slow. I turned, light swinging, and saw nothing. But I heard breathing. Not rushed. Right behind me. I ran. Locked myself in the first bedroom and shoved the bench against the door. The breathing stopped. The footsteps retreated. Then came the tapping. On the wall beside the bed. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then it moved. down the hallway, into the other room. The bed creaked again. Something lay down. I stayed awake all night. The tapping continued at irregular intervals. Sometimes on the walls, sometimes on the floor, never on the door. At dawn, the sound stopped. I waited another hour before leaving. The snow had covered the tracks outside, except one set, leading from the forest to the cabin. And stopping at the door, I reported everything. Search teams went out. They found the cabin. But they told me something that still makes my stomach drop. The second bedroom didn't exist. According to their inspection, the cabin only had one. No record of renovations. No missing walls. No explanation. They asked me if I was sure I hadn't been confused. I quit the job 2 weeks later. Every winter since, I get a voicemail. No voice. Just soft tapping. Always 3 times. The voicemail didn't make sense the first time I heard it. I almost deleted it without listening all the way through. Unknown number. No transcript. Just a timestamp that said 3:42 a.m. I work in facilities management for a regional school district. Night alarms, power failures, water leaks. Those calls come to me before they go to anyone else. Most of them are false alarms triggered by weather or old sensors. This one sounded different. The message started with silence. Then a faint echo like the phone had been placed on a hard surface. After that, a voice came through. "This is Lincoln Middle School. We're in lockdown." The voice was male, calm but tight, like someone reading a script while trying not to panic. There was a pause. Then he continued, "There's someone in the building." The message cut off there. No background noise, no screaming, no chaos, just that. I checked the call log. No active alarms were showing for Lincoln Middle School. No police dispatch, no system flags. I told myself it was a wrong number, maybe someone joking, maybe a missed dial from a personal phone saved under the school's name. Still, I couldn't shake the tone. I drove out there before sunrise. The building was dark, completely shut down. No cruisers, no tape, no signs of forced entry. I unlocked the main door and stepped inside. Everything was normal. Classrooms locked, hallways empty, security panels green across the board. No record of a lockdown. I checked the office phone system. No outgoing calls logged at 3:42 a.m. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. The next night, the voicemail came again. Same number, same time. "This is Lincoln Middle School. We're in lockdown." This time there was something else underneath the voice. A low sound, like furniture being dragged slowly across tile. I called the number back. It rang once, then went to voicemail. I left a message asking for clarification, assuming maybe a custodian or staff member had somehow routed a call through an internal system. No response. On the third night, I stayed awake. At exactly 3:42 a.m., my phone rang. I answered. "This is facilities," I said. Silence. Then breathing. Not into the phone. In the background, multiple people, trying to stay quiet. A whisper came through. "He's still walking." My blood ran cold. "Who is this?" I asked. "What's happening?" A different voice answered. "We locked the doors like we were told." A loud bang echoed through the call. The line went dead. I was in my car within minutes. When I reached the school, the front doors were unlocked. Inside, the lights were on. Every single classroom door was barricaded from the inside. Desks stacked, chairs pressed against handles. But the rooms were empty. No students, no staff, no signs of a struggle. Just classrooms frozen mid-lockdown. In the main hallway, I found muddy footprints. Only one set. They led through the building, past every classroom, stopping briefly outside each door, then continuing, ending at the auditorium. The auditorium doors were open. The space was dark, but the stage lights were on. In the center of the stage sat the school's emergency phone. Off the hook. I called the police. They swept the building. Found nothing. No break-ins reported. No missing persons. The district told me to drop it. Said maybe the calls were a prank using a spoof number. But the voicemails kept coming. Always at 3:42. Always the same opening line. Sometimes there were new details. "He's checking the rooms. We're not supposed to move. I don't think he's staff." Once, I heard a voice crying quietly in the background. Then 2 weeks ago the voicemail changed. "This is Lincoln Middle School," the voice said. Then it hesitated. "We're still in lockdown." I drove out there again that night. The building was dark, but the auditorium lights were on. When I stepped inside, the emergency phone was ringing. I didn't answer it. I left. Yesterday, the school district announced Lincoln Middle School will be demolished over the summer. Structural issues. Black mold. Condemned. Last night, my phone rang at 3:42 a.m. Unknown number. I answered. No one spoke, but I could hear footsteps. Slow. Echoing. Like someone walking down a long hallway. Then a voice whispered very calmly. "He hasn't left yet. The call is still in my log. Marked as incoming. No end time."